Okay, so last day we started talking about uh, the postulates in quantum mechanics. So, and okay, so we said we discussed the first postulate, and we said okay, so this is postulate, or you can say axiom. The first postulate, it says that state, okay, state of a system, of a quantum system is nothing but a column vector, which you denote at gate psi, which is an element of c to the power d, or whatever, c to the power something. So this is a complex vector space, and so this means the norm is 1. Okay, so it is unit norm. Okay, and we also said the evolution of the state. So we said it satisfies something called the Schrodinger equation. Schrodinger equation, which goes like this: I times h cut dt psi t is equal to h psi t. So where h is a Hermitian matrix, so it is called the Hamiltonian of the system. So this is a Hermitian matrix. Hermitian matrix. So this is what we talked about last day, about the first postulate. And now today we'll start from the second postulate. So now postulate 2. Postulate 2. So postulate 2 is very, very interesting. It says, okay, just yeah. So postulate 2 says, okay, if you want to observe any property, or if there is a property which you are interested in about the system, so that property corresponds to a Hermitian matrix. Okay, so in general it is called the self-adjoint operator, and it is called an observable of the system. So for our case, the observable is a Hermitian matrix. So we associate a or any observable. So observable means some property of the system, like angular momentum, whatever the position, whatever. Okay, these are considered as matrices in quantum mechanics. Okay, so it is called an observable. So observable. Okay, let's say A. So A is an observable. Let's say, so we associate any observable A as a Hermitian matrix. Hermitian matrix. So I'll not use two notations for observable and the matrix. I'll use the observable is that's the matrix. Okay, so it's a Hermitian matrix. And if you want to measure some property of this thing, this observable, okay, so then okay, so then what it says is the following. So the possible outcome, okay, outcome of a measurement of A, okay, is one of the eigenvalues. eigenvalues of A, and this is really interesting. So what it says is, if you want to measure something, okay, the outcome is one of the eigenvalues. So depending on the dimension of the matrix, we have, let's say A is a n by n matrix, and then it will have n eigenvalues. So once you observe, you want to measure, then you will get so if you measure the observable, you will get one of the eigenvalues of this matrix. Okay, so any Hermitian matrix, okay, it will have always real eigenvalues. So you will always get a real number, okay, as an outcome. So if I assume it like this, that A is equal to, or maybe A some lambda I is equal to lambda I A lambda I. Okay, so here I'm using the same notation. So this is for the eigenvalue. Okay. Okay, maybe in the beginning I'll use a different notation, but what I meant is here is it's the eigenvalue of the ith eigenvalue of A, and it's the corresponding eigenvector. Okay, eigenvector. Or maybe I can just write AI, maybe AI is equal to some AI I. Okay, so AI is the eigenvalue and this I is the eigenvector. Okay, so if that is the case, then what happens is you'll observe one of these AIs, okay, depending on the dimension of A. And now in the previous postulate, what you said is the state of the system is a vector. Let's say at time t, the vector is psi t. And now recall that any Hermitian matrix will have orthonormal eigenvectors. Okay, so if this I is an eigenvector, let's say I equal to 1 to n, then it will have n eigenvectors which are orthogonal, and they have unit norms. So they form a basis of the corresponding space. Let's say psi t here. Okay, so psi t, whatever the dimensions, let's n, then it will have n eigenvectors, and then psi t can be considered as a linear combination of those eigenvectors because they will also form a basis. So this can be written as sum of some C I, but since it depends on time, so this C is constant. Okay, this also will depend on time. This is happening since this set I, okay, this forms an orthonormal basis of whatever the system, let's say C to the power n. Okay, or I started with C to the power d, whatever it is. Okay, now again, since this psi t, okay, now how to get CIT? CIT is obvious actually. So since this set of vectors, okay, they are orthogonal, okay, then what you can write is you can multiply both sides by its transpose. So this implies, so if you multiply by transpose psi t, so then this will give you CIT. So and this will give you CIT, because for all other vectors, okay, so this inner product will become 0. Okay, so then you will have CIT as just I psi t. Now, since this is a unit vector, this psi t is a unit vector. Okay, the sum of CIT square, or mod of this, if they are complex numbers, mod of this is equal to 1. Okay, because it's a unit vector. Unit vector means the condition you remember, that psi t, okay, psi t, this is equal to 1. Okay, so it will give you just the sum of this. So this since this. Okay, so it will have this. Then the quantum this postulate 2, it says then you will observe this AI, right? One of these AI, but it says with a particular probability. So what is the, so if now if I write, if A has eigenvalues, let's say A1, A2, AD, then the question is You may observe this one, you may observe this one, you may observe this one. But this will come with a probability. So this will appear with some probability, which is probability of A1. This will come with some probability of A2. This will come with probability of AD. And these probabilities are nothing but this mod of, let's say here, the CIs. So it is C1 T square, here it is C2 T square, here it is C dt square. Okay, so ultimately, essentially, what it is saying is that if I have an observable, okay, and the system is, let's say, d-dimensional, an observable is a d-dimensional Hermitian matrix, and since it has the orthonormal eigenvectors, so if you measure this side, okay, this measurement process, I'll tell you what does this mean, this measurement process. I'll tell you a little later. Okay, so that means you do something with this, with the particle or with the system. Okay, then so you are trying to do something means with a purpose. You are doing something with a purpose. You are trying to measure some property, some quantity, okay, about some property of the system. Then what you observe is one of the eigenvalues of this observable, okay, of the matrix A, and each of these will come with some probability. So basically what it's saying is, so measurement, it's kind of a random variable here. Okay, so the probability distribution is given by this P1, P2, and this PAD. Okay, so you can assume that this A1 is kind of like you have a random variable, okay, from some sample space to this R. Then these are like, so corresponding to each sample, you will have, let's say, A1, A2, dot 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 AD. These are the possible outcomes, and this comes with this probability of PA1, PA2, and so on. So in general, then it means that this quantum mechanics is kind of a probabilistic in nature. Okay, so in some sense it is probable because these outcomes, okay, they appear with some probability distribution or with some probability. Okay, but there is a catch here, which I'm not telling you. The problem is, if this eigenvalues AI, okay, of A, they need not be distinct. If they are distinct, then it is fine. If they are not distinct, then what will happen? So that means this P AI, okay, so here whatever I am writing, let's say A1 is equal to E2, okay, then what will be the probability? Because there are two eigenvalues, okay, which are not distinct, and they are the repeated eigenvalues. So it is called, in quantum mechanics and physics literature, it is called the degeneracy. Okay, so if there is an eigenvalue which is degenerate, then what should be the probability? Can anybody tell me? Because you have done this quantum mechanics. Can anybody tell me then what should be the probability? Let's say A1 equal to A2. Then what is the probability of getting A1? Anybody?
Sir, can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so the question here is the following. Okay, if A has distinct eigenvalues, okay, let's say A1, A2, dot 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 AD, and they have their corresponding eigenvectors. So I'm writing is this. Let's say I is equal to AI I, and I equal to, let's say, 0 to up to d minus 1. Okay, so that means 0 is an eigenvalue, okay, corresponding to A1. Then corresponding to A2, 1 is the eigenvalue. So these are the eigenpairs, okay, and AD, and the eigenvalue is d minus 1. Or you can just say 1 to d, doesn't matter. But in general, we'll always write 0 to some t minus 1. Okay, you'll see later why. Okay, so if we have this, so once you have this measurement, then you will, so because these eigenvectors will form a basis, so then psi t can be written as this. Okay, some CIT, okay, I. Now what I'm saying is, this AIs will occur with some probability. I mean, the outcome will occur with some probability, and probabilities are nothing but this mod of CI square. So CIT square. This is the probability. So this is the probability of getting, let's say, AI. My question is that AIs need not be distinct. Okay, for distinct AI, this is a perfect explanation. Okay, there is no doubt about it. Okay, I mean, everything is clear from here. But the catch here is this AIs need not be distinct. So then, so if they're not distinct, let's say without loss of generality, let's say A1 is equal to A2. Suppose A1 is equal to, and others are all distinct. Then my question is, and what should be, then what is P of A1? What should be this one?
Mod C1 square plus mod C2 square.
Mod C1 square plus mod C2 square. Okay. Anybody else? So let me write the answer here. Okay. Mod C1t square plus mod C2 square, 2t square. Okay, this answer is, it seems logical because you have sum of Ci square, okay, is equal to 1. So if you change this, so there is a problem because for others it is sum of Ci square. Then if you add, and this probabilities, okay, this will give you a probability distribution, and that's the property of probability distribution, that probability of all the outcomes should be equal to 1. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. But the question is now, quantum mechanics also says once you measure, and suppose, okay, I'll come back to this question a little later, okay? In fact, I'll come back to this question when I'll discuss postulate 3. So yeah, so now quantum mechanics also says that once you do the measurement, okay, and suppose you observe some AI, then the state of the system collapses to the corresponding eigenvector, let's say I, okay? It also says after measurement, the system collapses to, okay, the eigenstate, it's I associated with eigenvalue AI. So if AI is observed, if you suppose you get the outcome as AI, then it collapses to I. Okay, this is the corresponding eigenvector. Now, if this is the fact, okay, then there is another question. Now, if you have repetitive eigenvalues, like I said, suppose A1 is equal to A2, then there are two eigenvectors. Then the question will be, what will be the state after the measurement? Whether it will be 0 or whether it will be 1. And that is a valid question. So when I said this postulate 2, so okay, keeping in this postulate 2 is keeping in mind that this A, okay, has distinct eigenvalues. And postulate 3, I'll say what will happen in general, like if A has multiple eigenvalues as well. Okay. So does anybody have any guess what should be the state of this? Because you must have done this, so that's why I'm asking. What should be the state? Whether it will be 0 or it will be 1. Suppose A1 is observed, but A1 is equal to A2, and there are two eigenvectors. One is 0 and another is 1. I mean, get 0 and get 1. Then what should be the state of the system?
Sir, a doubt. If it's same eigenvector, say for same eigenvalues, it will correspond to same eigenvectors, right? So get 0 and get 1 are same.
No.
Hmm?
If they are same eigenvectors are not orthogonal, right?
Okay. Yes, sir, sorry.
Yeah, eigenvectors, okay, always from orthogonal set. So that means they're also distinct eigenvectors correspond to eigenvalues. They should always be orthogonal. So they are always linearly independent. Even if you have an eigenvalue of multiplicity more than 1, algebraic multiplicity is more than 1, the geometric multiplicity should be equal to the algebraic multiplicity for each of these eigenvalues. Okay. So, and not only that, it is much more spatial. So the eigenvectors will also be orthogonal. So the question is now, so if you observe A1, and A1 is equal to A2, then what should be the state? Whether it will be 0 or it will be 1, or what should be the state? Physics students? What should be the state? Okay, now I'll talk about that, okay, in postulate 3. Postulate 3, I'll talk about that. And it says it is as follows, okay? Okay. Suppose psi is the state, okay, of the system, and A is an observable, okay? Okay. Then if we measure A, okay, and obtain the outcome AI, then, okay, let me not write then here, let me start with if here. Then immediately after the measurement, the state of the system is this. Pn, I'll tell you what is Pn. Pn psi, okay, divided by square root of psi Pn psi, where Pn is the projector, or you can say projection matrix, or you can say projection operator, okay, over the subspace corresponding to, or the eigenspace corresponding to An. Okay, I'm using different notations like Pn here, An here in the previous AI, just to get acquainted with the notations, okay? Just to get acquainted with the notation, different notations, okay? Because different books use different notations, okay? Does anybody know what is called the projection operator corresponding to an eigenvalue?
Total product of the ket vector, like ket multiplied by bra.
Of what? What is that?
Of the eigenvector. If An is an eigenvector, then ket An times bra An is gives a, that is a projection.
No. Suppose An is an so this is an eigenvalue with, let's say, algebraic multiplicity. So it is a repeated eigenvalue, let's say algebraic multiplicity anything, let's say k. Then what happens? Then there are k vectors psi1, psi2, psi k. Then what is the projector operator? What is that? Do you know what is called the projection operator in a generic sense? Okay, this is linear algebra or matrix algebra. So I will not discuss here, but you should know what is a projector operator. I mean, it projects onto some subspace. Here, this subspace will be eigenspace corresponding to An. Okay, so here basically Pn will be this psi1. So you are correct when it is one eigenvector, but if it has multiple eigenvectors, so then it is just sum of the projectors, individual projections. This plus dot 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 plus psi k, psi k. So in general, we can just write sum over psi I equal to 1 to n. This is my Pn. Okay. Now, what this postulate says, it is Pn times psi. So if you do now see, psi is again a state, the state of the system. Okay, before the measurement. Psi is the before the measurement. Okay, psi is the state of the system. Now these eigenvectors, okay, will form an orthonormal basis. So psi can always be written as sum of some Ci psi I. Okay. So let's say I mean time is fixed. Let's say I'm not writing t every time. Okay. So I wrote it in the previous class, but here I'm not writing. It means that time at some time. Okay. So time is fixed. So I'm not writing it. So let's say 1 to d. It's a d-dimensional system. Let's say. So okay, and these are the psi i's. Okay. So it can be written as this. Now if you do this p and psi, what will happen? So this is my Pn. So it is sum of this. I equal to 1 to n. Okay. Psi I, okay, times psi. And psi means this is okay. Psi means sum of okay. Let's say j equal to 1 to d, cj psi j. If you do that, what will happen? So the psi j's will get multiplied with this one, and if j is not equal to I, then that product will be 0 because they are orthonormal. I mean they're orthogonal. So then that will be 0, right? So basically, I can say this is some linear combination of, so only psi i's will remain when this is remaining. So whatever psi I here is, so if it is I equal to j, then only there will be a non-zero term. So basically it is some, let's say some alpha times psi I, this will remain. So that means this is a vector, okay, which is a linear combination of all these i's, I equal to 1 to n. Okay, so that means this vector, that state after the measurement, okay, lies on the eigenspace, okay, the space which is spanned by the eigenvectors corresponding to an. Okay, I equal to 1 to k there. Okay, so this is lying now after the measurement, the state, okay, falls on the eigenspace corresponding to an if an is observed. So this is the meaning of this postulate 3. And why there is a denominator term here? Because just to normalize it. Now I'll just give you this as homework. Okay, so this homework is find out. Okay, homework is find this, find psi, pn, psi. Okay, and check that, because this also has to be, because it since this is a state, so it has to be of unit norm. So you have to check that this norm is unique. Check that this is a unit vector. Any doubt about this? So what happens if now I'll get back to that question. What should be the probability now? Okay, here I did not say what is the probability. Okay, what should be the probability? Any guess? What is the probability of getting this an or whatever I said? Okay, the outcome AI I said, right? AI. So what is the probability of that? The probability of getting AI is this. I think you all know this, so I'm a little bit confused what to say, what not to say, because yeah, this will be this psi p and this psi, and you can calculate and check what when this AI, okay, is of algebraic multiplicity 1, okay, then what happens to this probability? So here I said, okay, what is the probability? So I'm giving you the answer now. The answer is, okay, you can calculate from here. Okay, if it is a multiplicity 2, then what will happen? Can anybody tell me now what should be the probability P of AI? Okay, you need to know a little bit of linear algebra. So this is also homework. Just find out, put this Pn here. Pn is equal to the sum of this, right? Pn is equal to sum of this. Okay, just put Pn there. Okay, and find out what is the probability. Okay, this is also homework because you should have known this. So okay, because it already has been discussed. The next is there is something called, so because I said measurement is like kind of, you can say it is kind of a random variable. Okay, so you have a probability distribution. Okay, let me write it this way. So if you have an observable, okay, so this is an observable, let's say. Now if you measure this, okay, then it can have several values, and these values are like a1, a2, dot, let's say a d minus 1, whatever be the system. Okay, these are the eigenvalues, let's say. Now for this, you have a probability of A1, probability of A2, probability of AD minus 1. Now, if I ask, so this will occur, A1 will occur with this particular probability, A2 will occur with this particular probability, AD minus 1 will occur with this particular probability. So these are the values which you can have as outcome, possible outcome after the measurement. Then my question is, what is the expected value? What is the average value? Okay. Question here is now, what is the expected value, okay, of the measurement, because we have a probability distribution. So what is the expected value? So this is, I think you also know this, so let me just define it. So we'll denote it like this, and this will be what is the formula of expectation? It is just probability statistics scores. So the basics of probability. So this will be sum over whatever AI PAI I equal to 1 to D. So this is the expected value of the observable. Okay, and now see, this is a nice formula, because so what is happening is I equal to 1 to D, let's say AI, and PAI already I discussed, which is this one. Okay, so this will be AI here. So it is, I am using different notation just to confuse you guys. Okay, so PI, because you should know all this thing, because I'll be using different notations, okay, in different context. Psi, PI, psi, the same thing. Okay, here my eigenvalue was AN. Okay, here I used a different notation. Okay, no problem. So here you have this AI. Let's say I denote it as PN just above. Okay, so then what will happen here? You can take this psi out because this summation is independent of the psi. Okay, you can take the psi out and you can take this thing here. Okay, Pn and then psi, and this will be what? This is nothing but your, this is nothing but, what is that?
Observable A.
Yeah, observable A. So this I did not say because I wanted to ask this. See, if PNs are the, these are the projectors, okay, then definitely you will have this. I'm not telling you why, okay, you can just find it out because it is simple linear algebra. Okay, since is equal to sum over, okay, AIPN, or instead of that I can just write AIPI, where PI is the projector corresponding to AI. Okay, so yeah, so here also I can just write I just to make a just for the sake of convenient notation. Okay, I equal to whatever 1 to T. Okay, so you have this. Okay, so the average value after measurement is nothing but this. Okay, okay, now I think I'll start doing quantum computing. Okay, so I'll start with qubit, and qubit also, you know. Okay, so I very briefly I'll discuss what is what are qubits. Okay, so but okay, these are mainly, let's say, the quantum mechanics. I mean, the quantum mechanics is built on this three postulates. So you cannot ask why, but this formulation, okay, goes at par with the experimental results. So it fits. So that's why you can believe on this postulates. Okay. So three things to remember from here. Okay, three things. Okay, I'll tell you what is measurement. I did not say what is measurement. I'll discuss that when we will have particular quantum system like a one qubit, two qubit, three qubit, and so on. Because our focus will only be on multi-qubit system because we are doing quantum computing. So in quantum computing, we'll have quantum register as we discussed before. So a quantum register will have n number of qubits. So if you just remember that picture, okay, 101000, whatever. Okay, so this is like a classical register, and this 0 1s will be replaced by a qubit. Okay, so I'll discuss qubit first. So things to remember from this three quantum postulates is, first of all, is psi. Okay, this we have to remember. Okay, with this will always be used. Second thing is you have PAI. Okay, if AI are the eigenvalues of an observable. Okay, PAI. So after the measurement, PAI. Okay, and third thing, so this occurs with some probability. Third thing is, this is a general setup of let's say of the second postulate. It is, you have to remember that it is, if you have, okay, here also let's say this is an observable. Okay, so observable, and here you have to remember P whatever I, let's say psi divided by square root of psi pi psi. Okay, this is what you have to remember. So this is the state after the measurement. Okay, this is the state, okay, after the measurement. Okay, and pi is the projection of. So this is the three things we have to keep in mind after this kind of postulates. Now, what is a qubit? You already know, but still let me just say this. In a qubit is a quantum mechanical system which has dimension 2. Okay, so whenever we are saying quantum bit, so qubit means is short form of quantum bit. So we'll write it at like qubit. So when you have a particle, okay, so it represents something. So which sometimes it is called a qubit space. So the corresponding vector space, which represents this qubit. So it is a, sometimes it is also called two-level system. Okay, two-level system, or just you can say like it is a quantum state, okay, which belongs to C square. That's it. So whenever we write a qubit, this means this is in C square and this is equal to 1. This is the first thing to remember. Now, since it is in C square is a two-dimensional space. So if you pick any basis, okay, so the basis should contain two vectors like of C square, and the psi can be written as linear combination of those two. But we'll work with the standard basis. Okay, you can pick any basis, everything will work. Okay, everything will follow. So in principle, so in general, we will write general. I mean, there is a context why we are writing it. I'll talk about this later. General, I'll write psi to be is equal to, okay, some, let's say alpha 0 plus beta 1, where the 0 should be equal to first element of the basis and 1 is just the second element of the basis. Okay, this is how we'll denote. Okay, but instead of this basis, okay, you can choose any other basis. Okay, that is not a problem. Okay, this you can always choose, and of course here alpha square, mod of alpha square plus mod of beta square, this is equal to 1. So this is what a qubit is. Now I'll not discuss much, but still I'll just write, okay, how many degrees of freedom you have inside. I mean, meaning for suppose there is a qubit, okay, so how many parameters do I have to represent a qubit mathematically? Okay, so this is, let's say whenever I say parameter, it's a real parameter. Okay, the parameter can take only real values. So this alpha is a complex number. There are two parameters, and this is a complex number. It has two parameters. Okay, and this is one condition due to which one one parameter can be replaced by other parameter. Okay, so I'm not writing everything. Okay, I think you should know this. So I mean, just to give you a brief idea, you can say like r1 e to the power some I theta 1 plus, I mean 0 Ket0 plus R2 into the power I theta 2 Ket1, and then you can take theta 2 out from here. You can take theta I2 common. So, and then you can have the corresponding expression, whatever it is. And so this state, okay, we'll treat this as the same state here, because this phase factor which is coming out, okay, it has no physical significance. Okay, so we'll consider this state psi and this state psi is same. So now see here, we are getting, okay, we get rid of, let's say, we get rid of this theta 2. I think my screen is frozen, so just a minute, I need to stop and then start. Okay, do you have any question till now? No. Okay, so in general, I think what you already know, but I'm just recalling this. It is always can be written as this. Okay, and this theta, I mean these parameters, whatever I'm writing. So I phi, these are very standard parameters. Okay, 1. So it is like this theta will lie from 0 to pi, and this phi, okay, will be from this to this. So now here you can see there are 3 parameters, and 3 parameters are very, very significant. So this is a unit vector. Okay, so norm of this is 1. So that means this theta and phi will also satisfy some kind of inequality. Okay, so you can have this block sphere representation, and one can show that the physical meaning of theta and phi, this psi can be just a point on the surface of the sphere, okay, which is known as a block sphere. I'll not talk about block sphere. I think Professor Sanjay Mujin already discussed about it. So just to recall, because I'll be using this expression, okay. So whatever is necessary, I am doing that in quantum mechanics. Okay, I'll not do much. So this is what is a general qubit. I mean, any qubit in this world has this kind of an expansion, this kind of a representation. Okay. Now, while we'll be doing quantum computing, okay, where we'll try to manipulate qubit. That means whenever a qubit is given to me, okay, then for some value of theta and some value of phi, the qubit has this particular state. Okay, so for some particular value of theta and some particular value of phi. Okay, now so this is the 3 things I need to do. Okay, or I need to have access to, then only I can do quantum computing. Okay, so in practice, okay, we can perform, okay, quantum computing, okay, okay, with qubits, if we have the following. Okay, so I'll just write it down. First of all, if I want to do a quantum computing, okay, if I want to perform quantum computation, then I mean there should be an experimental setup, okay, which should prepare a desired state of the qubit. For example, I want, for example, 0, okay, 0 or 1, okay, these are the examples. So there should be a facility, such that we can prepare a desired state, for the qubit. Okay, so whatever 0 means, whatever 1 means, doesn't matter to me. Okay, because you already must have known, so that's why I'm not talking about that much. But let's say I should have a facility which can create my desired state. Okay, so this is important, is what? Preparation. The preparation of a qubit, because I want to use that qubit. Okay, I want to use that particular state. So somebody has to prepare that state. Okay. Second thing is, when I want to perform some quantum computation, I need to have a facility okay, to create some kind of a setup, experimental setup, okay, which can realize unitary transformations. Okay, so there should be a setup that can realize okay, a performance of a unitary transformation or unitary matrix also you can say. But transformation word is much more important here. Transformation, okay, which will be applied to the state, to the qubit. So there must be facility, okay, that can realize the performance of a unitary transformation. So what does it mean? Okay, so I did not say it much last day also, but from postulate 1, you can see which said like the evolution of a quantum state is given by the Schrodinger equation. Now, if you solve Schrodinger equation, okay, I mean, this is a homework, let's say. It's a homework. If you solve this evolution, then what is psi t? If you just find out, okay, this must be what? This is evolving. This is with respect to t. That state is changing, okay, with time. So if the previous state is, let's say, or the initial state is, let's say, t naught, let's say at t naught. So suppose this is known, psi at t naught. This is known. This is where it has begun, let's say, is known. If this is known, then the question is, what will be this one? Then if you calculate that, you'll see that it will be e to the power something, which will ultimately be a matrix times this sum psi t naught, okay, the initial state. And this matrix is a unitary matrix. That means I need a unitary transformation. Okay, the transformation can be realized by unitary matrix in quantum mechanics. Okay, so if you just solve this is just a first order differential equation. You can solve this. Okay, so this matrix should be created. So I must have a facility where I can create this, because this is the dynamics of a quantum state. Here in particular, I have a qubit. Okay, so yeah. And third thing is very, very important. Okay, so which gives me actually a result. Okay, so the measurement facility, the setup, there should be a setup for measurement. Now here you see there is a catch. Can anybody tell me what is measurement? I want to know what you know. Otherwise, I'll just skip it if you know it already. What is measurement, by the way? I mean, when I said in the second postulate, if you perform a measurement, then you will get one of the eigenvectors. What did I actually mean by this measurement here? Can anybody tell me? If I do a measurement for the observable A, then I'll get one of the eigenvectors of A. But what did you actually mean? So what is happening?
The qubit state.
Yeah,
The
go ahead.
qubit state in which the qubit is like the qubit state. It actually specifies the qubit state when you perform measurement.
Okay, so I mean, question is mathematically, how do I write a measurement process? I mean, how do I represent a measurement? Not the right, but how do I represent a measurement process? Okay, so in general, anybody else? Anyone else? Because I'm assuming that this you know already because you have done basics of quantum mechanics. I mean, for example, okay. So let's say should be a setup for measurement, right? Now you should know that there is something called a computational basis, let's say. Okay, so there should be a setup for measurement. What I mean by this, okay, there should be a setup. Okay, so let me write it this. I do not know how much you know. That's the problem, because I'm just repeating all this thing. alpha 0 plus beta 1. Okay. Now, if I measure this, okay, so this is my state. Now, if I, so of a qubit, now the corresponding to the qubit, I have some observable. Okay, observable means there is a Hermitian matrix. Let's say A is an Hermitian, let's say A is an observable. Okay. So if it is an observable, so this is a Hermitian matrix. So 2 by 2 Hermitian matrix, whatever it is, 2 by 2 Hermitian matrix. I want to measure this. Then after the measurement, the state will collapse to one of the eigenvectors of this and whatever eigenvalues observed. So that will be the observed value for this observable after the measurement. And then accordingly, the corresponding eigenvector will be the state. Okay. But my question is now, when I am saying this measurement, what I'm doing actually?
Sir, physically you have a detector. When you put the detector near the qubit or state, the detector will read one of the eigenvalues of the observable. So that is measurement, like physically.
Okay, no, the thing is that is okay, but the thing is, after measurement, what does the particle go, or what is the state? How do I realize from that experiment?
It is in one of the eigenstates, either ket0 or ket1 here, like here.
Yeah, so now there is a problem. If these are the only the eigenvector, these are only the after measurement, if these are the only possible state, that means the observable must have these as the eigenvectors. Because we said, the quantum mechanics says that after the measurement of an observable, the system, the state of the system collapses to one of the eigenvectors or in the eigenspace of the observable. So whatever I'm measuring, that means I'm measuring something whose eigenvectors are 0 and 1. Otherwise, the second postulate will fail. You understand what I'm saying?
Sir, can you repeat how second postulate will fail that, sir?
Yeah, second postulate fail means what I'm saying is, if you say that if I observe, after the measurement, you said after the measurement, you will get 0 or 1, right? Either 0 or 1. That's what you said. But second postulate says the system should collapse to one of the eigenvectors of the observable. Now, if I measure an observable whose eigenvectors are not 0 or 1, then it will not. After the measurement, the system will not collapse to 0 or 1. Because if the system collapses to, let's say, 0 and 1, and the observable has different eigenvectors, so then the second postulate will fail. So what is the connection here?
Yes, sir. The question is, if you measure with an observable whose eigenvectors are not the
0 and 1.
Eigenvectors.
Yeah, 0. And then what should be there? So then how can we say that after the measurement, this 0 and 1, the state will be either 0 or 1?
No, sir. So if it's not in the eigenvectors of the observable, so then it will collapse to either 0 or 1. But after you measure, you get the same 0 or 1 only. Like suppose in this case, if you take this is poly Z matrices, observable is poly Z, and you measure with poly X, you get either 0 or 1 if you change basis. Then after you measure with poly X matrix again and again, you get that same what you got the first time. So this is physically what happens, right?
So that means if once is reduces to something, and then whatever observable you take does not matter, it will be only 0 and 1, the outcomes.
Take the same
resulting state.
If you take the same observable, then outcome will not matter that time.
No, I'm saying that I will change the observable now. For example, okay, let me clear my question. Maybe what I'm saying, it is not, you cannot understand this, okay?
Maybe
so this is not, so what I'm saying is, if I measure this is my state, let's say. If I measure, okay, A, and this is the state of the system, then what is my resulting state? Because this is very, very fundamental, okay, to quantum computing. What is the resulting state? After the measurement, what should be the state? This is my question. And this A could be anything. Whenever I say measure A, means this could be any Hermitian matrix up to order 2 by 2. Then what should be my state? Will it be 0 or will it be 1 after the state? Or what is this?
A's eigenvalues are ket 0 and ket 1, sir.
No, no, no. It could be anything I said.
Oh,
Any observable.
and then it should change probabilistically. If we should write psi in A's eigen ket basis, and then we get results probabilistically. Like
Okay,
it
so
will change
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Like
Good.
taking vector component along this.
Yeah, good. So quantum mechanics says this is what a perfect answer. Okay, so if I measure this, doesn't matter since this is a two-dimensional vector and this is the corresponding Hermitian matrix. So it has the corresponding, it has some eigenvectors. Let's say psi1 and psi2. Okay, these are the eigenvectors of this matrix. So this can always be written as, in that case, some, let's say, alpha dashed psi1 plus beta dash psi2. And then after the measurement, okay, if we measure this observable, so the resulting state will be either psi1 or psi2. But in order to express this mathematically, okay, in order to express this process mathematically, we'll say that when we are measuring with respect to a basis, okay. So, and this basis is this, the eigenvectors of the observable. Okay, this is what we'll say. So measurement is done, okay, corresponding to a basis, okay, which are, okay, which contains eigenvectors of the observable. In fact, in many places you'll see either will get 0 or will get 1, okay, after the measurement. Okay, so but what they actually mean is this, okay, what they actually mean is you are measuring always sigma z or an observable which has 0 and 1 are the eigenvectors. Okay, so if somebody says that after the measurement of the psi you'll get 0 and 1, that means you are always measuring sigma z, let's say. So you are always measuring with respect to the basis of sigma z. So sigma z, the Pauli matrix sigma z, which has 0 and 1, okay, which has eigenvectors vectors 0 and 1. So then I'll say that I am measuring with respect to this basis. So there are two things now. Even for the case of quantum computing, I can just forget about the concept of observable. I don't need the concept of observables. What I want to say is that when I am measuring a qubit, let's say, okay, it can be generalized to any number of qubits or any state. But in quantum computing, what we'll say is whenever I have a state, doesn't matter, okay, whatever the state is, okay, I'll always measure it with respect to a basis, okay. Basis means that basis is nothing but it contains the eigenvectors of some observable, but we'll not talk about the observable, okay. We'll say, okay, so we say that we measure psi, let's say, okay, we measure directly psi, it does not matter, or we measure the qubit, okay, not psi but the qubit, the system, let's say, the qubit with respect to a or an orthonormal basis, okay. And if the basis is a standard basis, the basis is 0 1, it has a name, so basis this, we call it computational basis, okay, computational basis, but it can be any basis actually. So in quantum computing, in most of the cases, we will not talk about even any observable. We'll just say we are measuring the system with respect to a basis, and that is enough. Is that okay? Any question? No question. Okay. So now we'll talk about. So I mean, this is what I wanted to discuss about qubit only, because this is very, very important in the context of quantum computing. Now we'll talk about quantum models of quantum computation. Okay, so just like, so this is the models of quantum computation. So just like the classical case, we also have two models of computations. One is the quantum Turing machine, and another one is the circuit model of computation. So in this course, we'll only talk about circuit model of computation. Okay, so there can be of two types: quantum Turing model and circuit model. Okay, and like we talked about different gates in different logic gates in classical computation. Here also we'll talk about different gates for quantum computation. Okay, I think again the screen is frozen. Just a minute. Okay, but so here this is our focus, the circuit model. Okay, and another just thing I want to just add. Okay, so when I had n bits, okay, instead of that I have n qubits here. Okay, and we call it a quantum register. So we have, so because I'll be doing computation on n number of qubits. Okay, so this is an n qubit system. Okay, so it's a, I'll most of the times I'll call it as a quantum register. Okay, a quantum register of size n. It means this is of size n. That is, this is a system in quantum mechanics language. It is a system of n number of qubits, quantum bits. Okay. Okay, now if I want to do that, okay, I think this also you know, but still I'm just recalling. So what is the state of such a system of n qubit? So what is the state of my register or my quantum register? So as you already know that qubit is c square and it is n number of qubits. So my state space is c square tensor c square dot 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 tensor c square. This is my state space. And it has, what is the dimension? This is n times. Okay, this is n times. Okay, so I have this. Okay, I have this, and here I have, let's say, some psi1, some psi2, dot dot dot, some psi n, where each of this psi I, okay, is in c square. Okay, now I want to talk about the joint state. Okay, so that means when I say the state of the quantum register, that means what is the dimension of this one, this vector space? This vector space 2n. What is the dimension? This, you know about this tensor product, right? This also sometimes called Kronecker product, by the way. You know about this or not?
So the dimensionality, there was same confusion last time also. Like, is dimensionality defined as number of variables required to define the system, or is it number of those ket vectors? Then it will be 2 power n if it's number of ket vectors.
It
It will
is,
be 2 power n.
whenever
Or
I say dimension, whenever I'm saying dimension, it's the dimension of the vector space. Okay, so it is always 2 to the power n. There is no other question. And okay, let me just recall. I don't know. So just let me just recall. So I mean here, what do we mean? So it is like, so it's a product of, this is a tensor product of two bases. Okay, two vector spaces. Okay, But first we need to define what is the tensor product of two vectors, okay, which are two dimensional. Let's say AB and CD, okay, CD. So what is that? So this product is nothing but A times CD and B times CD. So this is a four-dimensional vector. So now if you keep on doing this for n times, okay, you'll get a vector space, which you will write it like C to the power 2n, okay. So this 2n is the dimension of this. And whenever I write psi as this, okay, so this is, I'm say 2 to the power n dimensional. Okay, if it is 2 to the power n dimensional, that vector space, that means, so it is an n-dimensional vector space, that means it must have a basis which contains 2 to the power n vectors, okay. And the basis, I mean, these are all basic linear algebra. So that's why I say linear algebra is a prerequisite for this course. The basis will be nothing but this. So you pick a basis. Let's say I pick the standard basis, okay? Standard basis as a basis for C square. Then the basis of the entire space will be this. 0 times 1 dot dot dot, okay? 0, 1. So for example, this is n times. So for, I mean, for example, I mean, just to understand this, what is happening, if you take n equal to 2, then what is this basis? Okay, so this is 0, 1, okay, this is my notation, okay, 0, 1, sorry, 0, 1, so this is nothing but this, 0, tensor, 0, 0, tensor, 1, 1, tensor, 0, 1, tensor, 1. So we will also write this is same as whenever I have this kind of notation, I'll write 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. So this is my basis when n equal to 2. So basis is 4, that means 2 square. So what is happening when I have this space n qubit, okay, this is the my quantum register which consists of n qubits, then if I have a state of the quantum register, the psi, it belongs to C to the power 2 to the power n, okay, then I'll write that is psi has to be written as linear combination of those basis elements, right? So I'll just write the basis elements like this here, okay, like I did it for n equal to 2. If you don't understand, just let me know. So this I, or this is, there must be 2 to the power n number of basis elements. Okay, I'm telling you what are those basis elements, like just like this, okay. So can anybody tell me why, if I take n times, then what should be the basis elements? The basis elements will be, let's say x1, x2, xn, which is, let's say x1 tensor, x2 tensor. I mean, this is, I'm repeating, I mean, you should know this, okay? And xi's could be anything, like either 0 or 1. So, I mean, it has a connection with classical computers. So if I have n bits, okay? So let's say 1, 0, or n equal to, let's say, whatever, let's say 5. Okay, let's say this. So how many such sequences possible? Sequence of bits like 1, 0. How many it is possible? How many sequences are possible, which are of sequences of 0 ones of length 5, length 5? Yeah, 2 to the power n, right? Same thing I'm doing it here. Just this 1 and zeros are replaced by the gates. That's it. So there are this 2 to the power n. So if I want to write this, so there is a basis, okay, 2 to the power n, which contains 2 to the power n elements, and then this should be written as, now let me just write it, and then you just tell me whether you understand this notation. Okay, 1 I1 is equal to 0 to 1 summation in minus 1 is equal to 0 to 1 C I in minus 1 dot 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 I1 I0, and then here I in minus 1 times dot 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 times I0. You understand this notation? So I mean, what I'm trying to say here is summation, let's say C, and let's say I in minus 1, I in minus 2, dot, 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 I1, I0, and here is I in minus 1, I in minus 2, dot, 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 I0, and I in minus 1, I in minus 2, dot, 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 I0 is equal to 0 to 1. So that means this each of this could be 0 or 1, and this is the, then this will be the basis. So, and this any state can be written as linear combination of this basis, and not only that, sum of the squares of this, where sum of the squares of this, C I n minus 1 dot 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 I0 is equal to 1. You understand this notation? So, okay, I mean, let me give you an example. Okay, so again, in the case when I have 2 qubits, so in the, so examples, so if n equal to 2, okay, then my psi belongs to c square tensor c square, okay, which is equivalent to c to the power 4, okay. Then psi should be what I said is, it can be written as this, c1 1 plus c2 2 plus c3 3. So this can be written as c 0 0 0 tensor 0 plus c 0 1 0 comma 1 0 tensor 1 plus c 1 0 is 1 tensor 0 plus c 1 1 1 comma 1 1 tensor 1. Okay, so which I'm writing it as, c 0 0 0 0 plus c 0 1 0 1 plus c 1 0 1 0 plus c 1 1 1. Any question? If you have, please ask me. Okay, no question. So what is happening here? So this is a fundamental difference between classical and quantum, and one of the fundamentals, because there can be some relaxation also in classical. So what is happening is, when you have a classical register, one, let's say of length 5, so you have 5 bits, let's say 5-bit system, 1 0. Let's say this is an example 5-bit system. Now this system, okay, 5 system, these states are fixed. It cannot be changed. So the first one is, let's say if this is a transistor, or this is, let's say, switch. So this is on, second one is off, this is, third one is off, this is on, this is off. But in quantum, what is happening is, okay, when you write like this, 1 0 0 1 0, then the same thing is happening. The first stage is, let's say if it is 1 means something, let's say on or up or down. 1 means, let's say, up, okay. 0 means, let's say, down, because you know this word, so that's why I'm just writing. I'm not telling you, I mean, not discussing why I'm calling it down or up. So this down, up, and this is, let's say, down. Oh, this was up. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, whatever way you write it. So 1 I'm writing up, right? 0 is down. Okay. So, but okay, so when you already know this qubit is here, okay, then this is all the same thing as like a classical computer, okay, like classical register. But in general, suppose you don't know what are the states, individual qubits. This is not known. Suppose this is not known, this qubits. Then the state of this 5 register, or the register of size 5, okay, a 5 qubit register, that can be parallelly in the superposition of all these possible fundamental states. Fundamental states means the basis states, like here. So when suppose you have a 2 qubit system, you have a 2 qubit register. Okay, there is a qubit, okay, and there is a qubit, okay, psi and phi. And I do not know anything about this. This information is not known now. Only thing is known is that there are 2 qubits. Then what I'm saying is the state of this entire system, the entire register, is psi, okay, psi is the state, then psi can be of this type, which is not possible classically. Okay, psi can be in the superposition of all these fundamental states. But if you look at classical state, then there can be only 4 different states, like 0, 0. Classically, you can have 0, 0. Both the switches are off. First one is off, second one is on. First one is on, second one is off, and both are on. Classically, we can have only these 4 possibilities. There can be 4 possible registers. But quantum mechanically, what is happening? The state can be in the superposition of all this, and these coefficients can be complex number satisfying some property. So ultimately it is infinite. So one particular state of a quantum register, okay, can have infinitely many possibilities. Okay, this is the advantage of the superposition principle in quantum mechanics. Okay, so this state of the quantum register, okay, if it is a 2-qubit register, let's say, then this is the state, okay, which is a linear combination of all these 4 fundamental quantum states. Fundamental is the basis states, okay, so which is not possible classically, and this is a huge advantage for quantum mechanics. Why this is an advantage? Now, if somehow, so that means what is happening now, so it can realize this one particular quantum register. If you process this, all possible states are there. If you require this one, then you can measure with respect to this basis, okay, this 4-element basis, and then you can have this one. If you measure, I mean, with some probability, of course. If you measure, then this can be also in this particular state. This can also be the state of the quantum register, can also be in this state, or also be in this state, or in the superposition of all this, or 2 of this, or 3 of this. Anything is possible. So when you are processing this, doing something, so you are evolving this thing. That means when you are processing, doing something with this quantum register, so the states are changing, then all the entire state is changing. This entire possible thing is changing. The entire superposition is changing. This entire thing is changing. For example, if you multiply with some unitary matrix, okay, this is the quantum evolution, right? You multiply with this state, then you get a new state, which is a superposition again of these fundamental states. So all the transformation for all possible states, you can do it in one go, which is not possible for classical. So classically what happens is either you can have this and then you do some operation, then it will change to some state. Either it is in this position, second, this configuration, then you have some operation, some logic gate operation, let's say, on individual queues or whatever it is. Okay, then you can have the corresponding state. But in quantum mechanics, what is happening is in one go, you can compute many things. So whatever things you want to compute, okay, because it is the state is lying in the superposition of all the fundamental states. And this is something called, there's a huge power of quantum computation. It is called, so you can do it parallelly, okay? So it is called parallelism, okay, is one of the powers, okay, of quantum computation that people want to harness, basically, quantum computation. And you will see computation. I mean, I'm just telling you one thing, but I'll discuss this later, why I'm saying this. In fact, okay, quantum entanglement is a non-classical phenomena. That is okay. Entanglement is a non-classical phenomena, is okay. But creating, so like, say here, I talked about preparation, okay, about the qubit. I mean, the computation depends on these 3 things, right? One is the preparation of a state, second one is the unitary operation transformation, and third one is the measurement, okay? Now, same thing is also valid. I'll talk about that for n-qubit register. But the thing is, preparation of entanglement, creating, okay, let's say 5 qubits which are or 2 qubits which are entangled, okay, or 3 qubits which are entangled in some sense, okay. So that I will not discuss, but anyway, so in some sense, because we have done quantum mechanics, so is a difficult thing in practice. So all the quantum entanglement is a very nice thing, but it is also a very difficult thing and an experimental setup. So the question is, parallelism is the thing which is also not possible classically, let's say. Classically, although it is possible up to certain extent, so I'll not go into that. But let's say the extent it is possible in quantum computation, in principle, okay, that is not possible in classical computation. And the question is, can we exploit the power of superposition in quantum computation? And we'll actually discuss some algorithm where there is no use of entanglement. Still, you get an advantage, okay, compared to a classical algorithm. Okay, you can get an advantage without using entanglement. So this is also very, very powerful. This is what I wanted to say. Okay, but yeah, so this is what I wanted to say. So when you have this quantum register, n-qubit register, okay, what are the facilities I should have so that I can perform quantum computation? Okay, so facilities, again the same thing I'm repeating. Facilities for quantum computation with n qubits, let's say. Okay, n could be anything, okay, but in general, anything is not possible. I mean, in practice, but when I'm discussing this or when we do the theory, you always say it is n qubits. So first is, I mean, I'll just recall preparation. Preparation means, okay, so I said, for example, if you have a 2-qubit system, this is the state. Now the question is, I need a desired state. Is it possible? I mean, desired state means I give you some values of C0, I mean C00, C01, C10, and C11. Is it possible for you to create such? Do you have a facility to create that state? That's the question. In fact, you will see later on that this uniform state, meaning the C00 is equal to 1 by 4, C10 equal to 1 by 4, C0 is equal to 1 by 4, and C11, I mean not 1 by 4, half, because half square means 1 by 4. Yeah, half. C00 equal to half, C01 equal to half, C10 equal to half, C11 equal to half. Okay, so this is kind of uniform distribution of all possible states. Okay, this is one of the most, I would say, most interesting state which will be used in a lot of quantum computation algorithm. Okay, so can we create that? Okay, that's the question. Can you prepare that state? Do we have a facility to prepare that state? Okay, so in general, when we talk about n qubit, so we have this 1 by 2 to the power n, let's say here. Okay, all this thing, 1 by 2 to the power, or 1 by square root of 2 to the power n. Okay, all these numbers are like 1 by 2 to the power square root of 2 to the 1 by square root of 2 to the power n. Okay, then it's a uniform mixture of all these things. Okay, all these fundamental states. So yeah, so do we have a facility to create such a state? So this is first preparation. Second thing is we want to manipulate this. So realization of do we have a facility which can realize a relation of unitary operation? Now here I must tell you, suppose you have a 2-qubit system. Okay, there are 2 particles here. So then it will evolve like this. Okay, so you have this. Okay, I mean it could be the same register, the states will change. So that's why I'm just writing a different picture. So this is psi and then this is u psi. So do we have some device to realize a desired unitary transformation or not? That's the question. And here it is a 2-qubit transformation. Okay, not a single qubit transformation. That means this matrix corresponding this will be of order 4 by 4. Okay. Okay, and of course the next most fundamental facility should be measurement. Do you have a setup for measuring n-qubit register measurement? Okay, so if these 3 are there, then we can work with n-qubit quantum systems. Okay, so yeah, I think I should stop here. So next day we'll start talking about this thing, quantum gates. Okay. By the way, so the thing is, if you fix a schedule, okay, please let me know at least I mean, I would say at least 10 hours ago. What is happening is, so I had some different work in the evening. Okay, so I had to do it quickly and this and that. I had to manage a lot of things. Okay, so it will be better if you can
Sir,
inform me.
sir, can you
Yeah.
open this